people have gone, beloved people have left us, okay? So we should not take it lightly.
According to some clerics, many people have been misled by myths that challenge the use of vaccines. But on the other hand, this has continued to ravage lives, especially the elderly who do not have adequate knowledge about the pandemic. Sheikh Hassan Sharif Abdul Qadir said that Islam values science, which is supported in the Quran, but raised concerns over the lack of scientific literacy in parts of the modern Muslim world, which has become a threat against the efforts to combat the virus.
Ukija ukiangalia COVID-19 mpaka hivi sasa dawa zimepatikana, lakini hazina uhakika thabiti ya kuwa inaweza kutibu haya maradhi. Manufaa yaliyotokea enzi iliyopita na enzi tulionao hivi sasa, na hasa kujulisha itakavyokuwa dunia inavyokwenda bila sayansi, hakuna kitu kitafanyika.
The coronavirus pandemic has been with us, and through science, the world is making steps in efforts to fight the pandemic. As we believe in science to benefit humanity, and as new strands come up, we are urging people from all walks of life to take vaccines.
The missionaries also urged the Muslim faithfuls to follow COVID-19 regulations aimed at hastening the Ministry of Health efforts to stem new infections. They also urged religious clerics to enlighten their congregation during their sermons on keeping safe against the disease. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa.
And still in the country, a group of persons with special needs from Turkana are decrying an inadequate supply of nutritional support from the government for the past couple of years. Now, some groups suffering from TB and others, HIV, say they have stopped taking their medication as the effects are too strong on their empty stomachs. They are now demanding answers and relief from the government. Gina Kirori with more.
As the sun beats down on this group of residents in Turkana, their despair is tangible. Although a part of the community here, they feel completely obliterated. A section of the group is battling tuberculosis, while another is fighting HIV. Their woes are made worse by a lack of nutritional support from the government, which was consistent until 4 years ago. They have written a petition and collected over 1,000 signatures, demanding the county government explain what happened to the nutritional support they received.
Hii dawa yenye tunameza, ukimeza inakufanya nguvu inaisha kwa mwili. Hautaweza kwenda vibarua, na baadhi yetu tunakulia hizo vibarua. Unameza bila chakula, jirani atakuchotea saa hii, kesho atakuchotea, na hiyo dawa lazima umeze kila asubuhi. Maybe unameza kitu kama tembe 4 na chakula hakuna.
Saizi hatuna hope yoyote, hata watoto wetu hawana hope yoyote. Sisi tunaangalia pesa tu ikitembea kwa hii county, lakini hakuna hata moja. Amini usiamini, hata hizo misaada inakuja kwa jina letu uanga itufikie.
It is estimated that there are over 22,000 HIV-positive patients on drugs, although the special group say they could be more than the number released by the Turkana Ministry of Health. A number of pregnant women who suffer from TB and HIV in the region are also being hit hard by the lack of food and other essential healthcare needs. It is reported that they are sometimes forced to walk for kilometers to healthcare facilities, which puts them at high risk.
Ile uchungu ambaye nimesikia zaidi ni wa mama ambaye hawajiwezi na hawasaidiki. Unapata mama anameza dawa, ana chakula, mpaka unapata mama anakataa dawa akisema nitamezaje dawa jamani, na hii dawa inaniadhiri zaidi.
Dr. Jobo Kemwa, the Turkana County TB coordinator, confirmed that there has been a stall in the supply of nutritional supplies after global funding support was withdrawn 4 years ago, following a prolonged court case involving suppliers contracted by KEMSA, thereby tossing the whole program into jeopardy. Caught in between the whirlwind of this tug of war are the sickly who are desperate for sufficient food, water and other necessities, which are proving to be unattainable by the day. Gena Kirori, NTV.
Well, let's focus on the conversation of the day this morning. And the question is actually, what is the right age of getting married or to get married. And that hashtag is new normal on our social media handles, and you can also reach us using that number at the bottom of your screen. And this morning, to just help us understand this, is Grace Kariuki, who is a psychologist and also a family therapist, joining us in studio. In the other studio, we are joined by Karimi and John Wesonga, who have been married 7 years, and also joining us from their home is Wangeshi and Willie Kanyeki, who have been married 21 years. Yes, it is possible. Thank you guys for joining us on this conversation. And Grace, when we started off the program, I mentioned that research has shown that divorce has become more common in the last 50 years. And I can imagine from your profession, you perhaps can actually attest to the same?
Oh, yes. In fact, the numbers globally right now are 50% of all marriages in the church, outside the church. One of the 50% are ending in separation and divorce.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people who are very unhappy in marriages. And in second marriages, 65 to 75%, they don't survive.
Wow. So it even gets worse in the second marriage. Oh my.
Yes.
Now, one of the key reasons that was actually listed in the research is that getting married younger increases the likelihood of divorce. Why?
Yeah, well, I look at that. I don't think it really has a lot to do with age, you know, numerical age or chronological age.
Yeah.
I do think it has something to do with maturity. Are you ready for the institution itself? You know, so when you think if you get married younger than 25, the part of your brain which is supposed to do executive decision making, you know, where you are supposed to be able to not just go with the emotion, and you are able to suppress or manage the emotion so that you can be able to look at things objectively, it becomes more difficult. And then there are other issues. A lot of us right now are getting into marriage very broken. Already. So we are looking for something. And I will want, during the course of this, we talk about how it has changed. Marriage is not what we used to know it. It's very different, but we are still thinking in the ways of yesteryears.
Okay.
So the foundations of marriage are the same, but the way we think about ourselves, our life, we haven't moved the marriage. How we think about marriage. So expectations are much higher. And then there is also the issue of why are we getting married? Now, our parents or the generations before us, it was very clear, it was known. We had a set of rules. You never went away from that. Look at any community around the world. That's the way it used to be, because marriage is a social institution and it was governed by social norms. Today, how many people are waiting until marriage to involve in sex? Before, there used to be these rules, and that's just one of the rules.
Yeah.
But now, people are getting married because they engaged in sex and then they got hitched and they decided this is a good thing, it's a sweet thing.
Yeah.
And then you have children, or sometimes it starts with a pregnancy and then we get into a marriage. And so there are many dynamics as to why. It's not just the age.
Okay.
There is much more to that than just the age, but definitely the age does play a role in it.
Okay, now I know you've alluded to it a little bit, but let's just put it out there.
Yes.
Is there a right age to get married? Is there like a particular age you say, now this one umetosha boga?
Now, from my perspective, as a professional counselor, and especially in the area of marriage, I would say do not get married before you're 25. Allow yourself, during your early 20s, you are trying to figure out who you are as an adult. Once you get into a committed relationship, you can only grow within those parameters of the relationship, because most of us are not able to continue to grow outside of this. Remember what we do. We get into a relationship at 21, we close out everybody else, and so we are, unless you have very high levels of emotional intelligence, understanding, maturity, and also understanding that you need to grow as a whole. We tend to grow within these parameters of being in a relationship. And why? Because romantic relationships, they are very emotional. and our emotional growth is usually stunted by that. But if you spend your first 5 years of in your 20s to get to know more people, to get to be intimate with more people, not sexually, romantically in that way, but just socially. Get to know how men think, get to know how women think, get to know yourself, understand who you are, and also explore other areas of your life other than the romantic relationship. And I will tell you, the triggers for this is because we are coming in not having the love of a parent. Now, because there are two very important relationships in this life. One is your first relationship, which is with your mother and father. Second is your romantic relationship. And we simulate the same expectations and the same feelings when we are in a romantic relationship. We simulate what we experienced with our parents. And that is why at this point, research has shown that attachment styles are very important in how you become as a relationship person within your adult relationship.
Oh, wow. Okay, so various factors I think play part of this marriage network, and if it works or it does not work. Now, speaking of how old or which age you should be getting married at, now let's start with the youngest couple amongst us, and that is Karimi and John. When did you guys get married?
We got married 7 years ago, and I was 25, and my husband was 26.
So if you were to go by what we are hearing today, you were just at the boundary.
You were right.
Yeah. Okay, all right. When you hear that the younger you get married, the lesser the chances perhaps of your marriage making it, is it something that you're hearing for the first time, or you'd heard about it even before you made the decision? I'll start with Karimi.
Okay, well, yes, it's something that we've had over the course of our entire marriage, because, you know, you say, you go to your parents and you say you want to get married at 25. They're like, oh, you should do your master's first, you should do this, that, and the other first. I think it's too early. And then you get into the marriage, and then you start hearing, oh, you know, the first 2 years are really difficult. And then we get to the 2-year mark, and then you hear, oh, before you're 5 years into marriage, there's something that usually happens in between. You should expect that it's going to be hard, it's going to be like, we just always hear all these things at every stage of our marriage ever since we got married.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Was your experience different, John?
For me, I took time to understand myself. Like the therapist has said, I happen to fall under that category of people. So I took time to understand myself. I did not want to date for the sake of dating. So even when I met Karimi, I was kind of sure that she was the one because of what I was looking for. Yes.
And was she the first person you were committed into a long-term relationship?
She was the second person. And I think the first one taught me what to look for.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. How about you, Karimi? Was he your first?
No, I dated around. I did, and you know, I really like what Daktari has said. She said, you know, you need to know people, you need to expand your social, you know. So I did date around a lot, and that taught me what not to look for. It really showed me what not. Yeah.
Okay.
So when John came around, I just knew that this is exactly what I want my future to look like.
This is very interesting because, Grace, most often than not, we are brought up in a setup where your parents tell you the guy you meet is the guy you get married to. But you're seeing a younger couple here who clearly were already set up to fast explore before they get married.
Right.
Talk about the effects of this. I mean, the socialization around relationships.
Right, absolutely. Because again, we are coming, I think we have a dissonance in our minds when we get into the relationships in the era where we are living in. So we know what we were told, the conditioning that was put in our mind.
Yeah.
I have met enough ladies who are so disappointed in relationships because when they were younger, the first man I date, the first man who takes away my virginity will be my husband. But you don't realize that when you make that, there is a conditioning in your brain. So even when you're not ready to get married, but you get into a sexual relationship, your brain is telling you this is the guy. This is the person you have to be with. So conditioning is very important so that we ask the question, I am feeling the need to get married. Why? Who is informing this need?
Yeah. Okay, so how about those now who meet the first guy, meet the first lady, and get married?
Now, again, that depends on how what we call relationally intelligent they are. Because if I am coming and I'm inflexible, I don't realize that I'm supposed to come into this relationship and be flexible to get to know you, and we walk together. You are coming from a different space. Number one, things like religious beliefs, they shape what we think about relationships. Things like family beliefs, what we saw at home shapes the way that we think about relationship. Not to mention now the outside world, the people that when we go to high school, what our friends talk about relationships. When you go to college, what they say about that. So we have all these constructs in our minds about what a relationship should be like. And so it depends on how emotionally intelligent you are. And when I say emotional intelligence, I'm talking about how mature you are emotionally to look at things and also question them. So it is a must that when you go to college, you meet your sweetheart. If you don't meet somebody there, you probably will never meet your soulmate. That's a construct, a social construct that we have been conditioned to think. And so you want to make sure that you question, where are these beliefs coming from? Don't just go with the flow. And that is what we call intentional dating.
Okay.
And then there is also the issue of a lot of times we feel the pressure to get out of college with a marriage partner. And then when do we graduate? For most people, you are graduating around 24, 25. You see, you haven't even, you have gone through this initial time where you are becoming a person of the world. Before you are a citizen of your home and what was familiar. Now you've been thrown into the world. You are a citizen of the world. How do you manage that? And I think it is important, because I usually say dating is not supposed to always lead you to marriage. Dating is for you to understand yourself, and also for you to understand people who are around you. Define your values, define what is important to you. Every time you have a dating partner and that doesn't work, it's a time for you not to just mourn the loss, but it's an opportunity for you to grow.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, great nuggets coming out of this. I hope we're writing down, because as somebody said, marriage nowadays kind of feels like it should be included in the 1,000 list or ways of how to die. But hey, it's not all gloom. And this is something that can be attested to by Wangeshi and Willie, married 21 years. Wow, congratulations, guys. I'll start off with Wangeshi. Why Willie?
Why I chose Willie, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for having us here. As you have rightly said, we've been married 21 years. Why Willie? I was attracted to his coolness and calmness. He's very opposite of my personality, and he's very consistent in his life. So he's emotionally balanced, which is what I really needed. But very cool, very calm, very consistent.
Okay.
So he gives me a lot of stability emotionally, yeah.
How young were you when you met him? Let me first hear from Wangeshi. How old were you?
I met him at 27. He says he met me earlier, but when I actually acknowledged that I was at 27. So we dated for 2 years and got married at 29. It felt like forever though. It felt like we were running late, but 29 it was.
Okay, so Willie, why Wangeshi?
Well, just a correction. We met when we were 26. For some reason,
I don't
she
remember.
chose to ignore me for that 1 year. So according to how we met,
Okay. Uh-huh.
that notwithstanding, the first time I saw her, I just knew it was her. She was not the first person I dated. I think I dated maybe 2 people before that. So I'd probably done my homework, as the doctor was saying. But the moment I laid my eyes on her, I knew, look, this is the person I want to settle with. And her personality complements mine. She dresses very well. She just looked like this person who I really wanted to be with. It's kind of a long time ago, but I still remember those as part of the reasons why I decided I want to pursue her.
Oh, wow. I love the fact that Wangeshi still blushes when you say that. 21 years old. Amazing. Now, Wangeshi, when you think about how your dating life was before you met him, was it active or was he the first guy?
He wasn't the first guy. I dated somebody else before, and as the psychologists say, I made all the blunders of before 25.
Oh.
So I would not, because then I was discovering myself, unstable emotionally, selfish, totally selfish. So I would say people need to get married when they have they are able to self-lead and able to take on the responsibility of another extra human being.
Well said.
And a lot of times before 25 years, especially for the ladies, how you just don't know yourself. You don't know your what you like. You haven't explored your gifts and your talents. And you're likely to feel like you are shortchanged because marriage has a lot of responsibility and you really have to adult up. So if you're not ready, you will find that, hey, this is not what I signed up for. This is kind of too much responsibility. Where is my playtime? Where's my socializing time? Because some of that is reduced when we get married. So under 25 for women normally is a challenge. Unless she's very emotionally mature, you'll find that she's indecisive. She can be, 1 minute she's happy, another minute she's weepy and she doesn't know why. So, and then the biggest challenge is decision making. Before 25 for a lot of ladies, the decision-making process can be slower because of the developmental process or age. Okay. Some are exceptions, but for most ladies, they're just finding themselves. And so you'll find her very unstable before 25. Not for everybody, but for a lot of ladies.
Great pointers you actually bring up. And Grace, just before we get some of the feedback, because a lot of people have a lot to say about this subject. So what are these things that both male and female struggle with? Within that age, you were saying the brain is not fully developed.
Yes.
Let's start with the females. She's mentioned some of them, indecisiveness.
Right. And now, and also expectations. Expectations are very high for ladies about belonging. Like, women tend to look for belonging in relationships. Now, for the men, on the other hand, they are exploring. And so the man is exploring his you know, his, we used to call it, what do we used to call it? Sowing his oats, for instance. Yeah. So if you get these two people together, so the woman is looking for long term and the man is exploring. And so you will find that that relationship is going to start on a very rocky ground. That's why it's important for both men and women. What I have seen is that women should not get married before 25, and then men should not commit to a marriage before 27. That's what I have seen being out there. I'm yet to, myself is both of them need to be over 25 because, again, developmentally, your brain is now an adult. When we are 20, when we are 18, when we become legally an adult, we are not yet emotionally adults. We are still trying to figure. You need to give yourself time to figure out how to be in the world outside of the structures and the confines of the rules that were set by the institutions you've been in. So when you come into college life, there is too much freedom, and then there are no boundaries per se. And so unless you yourself, most of us actually in our 20s, what happened is that the church provided the boundaries for us. I remember myself, I made a commitment at 20, and I say to myself, don't ever, God, do not let me meet anyone until I'm ready for marriage. But then I had to do something about that prayer, which was, I recognized that I was not ready, and I didn't date until I was 28. But not because I knew anything. I just was burnt by being in a relationship. And I felt that it created a lot of emotional havoc and pain for me because my expectations were way out there. And I asked myself, why am I dating? And so when I talk about it's good for you to allow yourself, both men and women, decision making for both. I know women are they are more emotional about decision making, and so there will be a lot of self-doubt. Men might be quicker in making the decisions, but they may not be well thought out, you see. But they may be going with their need to explore, and while the women are going with their need to settle down. So you have to be very careful. And I usually say it is important for our singles who are right now listening to us, especially those who are younger than 25, do a priority kind of life map, you know, for your 20s, because your 20s are when you are laying your foundation as an adult. So think about, what do I want to accomplish, and how am I going to do that? I want to be married, and I want to have children. But at this particular time, for me to be ready for that, what do I need before then? Don't try to do everything simultaneously.
Okay, there you go. Again, I hope you're writing this down because these are great insights, especially when it comes to marriage. And remember, our question of the day is, what is the right age to get married? You can give us what you think, your suggestion, hashtag that is new normal. And we have a couple of you talking to us. Starting off with Amina Wako, who says, as long as you're above 18, then marry when you want. Really, Amina? From what I'm hearing today, you need to pause and think about it. All right. Angwenyi Samuel says, let's not lie to ourselves that there is a right age for marriage. If you're capable, just marry without any delay. Interesting perspective. Gueto Keremaine says age 25, so that by the time one hits 50, issue with bringing up children will have been accomplished. Okay, now you see where the priority is for that guy. Joseph Oteno says, quails and this story I'll tell in my old age. What does this have to do with this? But anyway, you can let us know. Another one. Jeff Carl says, I think a man should marry at the age of 30 with a girl of 25 to 26 years. Maturity is portrayed here, or even he would have worked for something a little bit. So a bit of financial freedom, I think, is what he's alluding to. Thank you, Jeff. Another from Nick Lagat, who says, I think there is no fixed time to marry or get married. Anytime you're socially, biologically, economically, spiritually ready is the time, no matter the age. Nick, yes, you have a point there, and it has been alluded to here. But there's somebody who is actually asking, how about our mothers and our grandmothers who got married at the age of 18? Now, Grace, before you answer that question, let me hear those that have been at this for 7 years. So there were songers. I'll start off with you, Karemi. Wangeshi mentions the fact that when you're at that age, you're still trying to find yourself, where your emotions are, who you are, what you like, and all that. So have you found yourself finding yourself within the marriage, or a lot of that was already done before you met John?
So I think the work of finding yourself doesn't end, to be honest, at any age. And for me, there's a lot of self-discovery within marriage, and I think the thing that has helped us work is that we've given each other space to, rather, we've created enough room within our marriage to find ourselves, self-discovery. Like, it's very important. I find that between 25 and now 32, I have done a lot more self-discovery than I've ever done even before I was married, I feel. And I feel like it's a continuous journey. I don't think there's any one point where it ends, because I do have friends who've, for example, turned 40, and they're like, when women turn 40, it's like a switch goes on, and I'm really just looking forward to that. And I'm discovering that even when you're at that age, at 40, someone is finding out something about themselves they didn't know before. You get? So I do believe that it's a continuous journey. You become better and better, and you become more self-aware as you go.
Okay, Karimi. So now when you think about before and after, do you think life as a person has changed for you after marriage?
A lot has changed, for sure, including my personality. I think that John and I actually exchanged personalities, which is weird, because I used to be a lot more outgoing, extroverted. I still am, but I'm a lot more introspective now. Like at the end of any day, I'll go home and I'll want time to myself to think. I never used to do that, to reflect. And so yes, I do believe that I've changed quite a bit, but for the better, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
How about you, John? Do you feel John before marriage and before and after are two different people?
Yes, because I think before I got married, I was unsure of many things about myself. When I got married, my wife helped me to also understand myself. There's that feedback you're given and you're like, I know, I think that's below the belt. But over time you realize they're trying to help you to grow. So I think for me, it's helped me to grow. And it's made me comfortable with introspection. I used to run, I kind of used to run away from myself.
Okay.
But with marriage, it made me kind of learn to look inward and be comfortable with that. And be okay with what I'm seeing and saying, do I want to change? Do I want to improve? Am I happy with who I am? So kind of just embracing who I am as a person.
Okay, Now I'll ask you the question I asked the Kanyekis. What about Karimi attracted you to her, considering I can clearly tell she's the extrovert, you're the introvert?
Yeah, that's number one. Yeah, but also she's very... she's not conventional, and I was not looking for a conventional partner. So that really attracted me to her. She was not, I was not looking for someone who would be a slave for me in the house. I show up and people are running around the house trying to make me comfortable. I wanted someone who would be a friend, and that's what really attracted me to her. Like, I could hang out with her. When you are dating, it was not about how expensive a place we went. There are days we'd buy biscuit for 5 bob and we had such a good time together.
Yes.
The time I took her somewhere, actually where I proposed to her, the proposal did not work out the way I had expected, but we laughed about it, so she's made me kind of have light moments in life. She brings spontaneity to my life because I'm very structured. Very programmed. I know what I want. I know how my day looks like. It's very predictable.
Yes.
So she comes around and she kind of brings some spontaneity and good vibe to that. Which I really like.
So she brought the spice into your life. Okay. Yes. All right. So how about you, Karimi? What did John bring around?
John, first of all, it's so weird calling him John because, well, yeah. So he's calm. He's very... he has a level head in any situation. He's very collected, He makes me feel very safe. He makes me feel like I can talk to him about anything. The things that I feel like I can't talk about, he's got it. Like, he understands me completely. And the thing that I love the most is he allows me to be everything about myself. Like, he just allows, Sometimes when we're in spaces and someone else is like, oh my God, you're letting her do that. And he's like, what's the problem? She's just being her. So I really love that about him. We do have 2 kids. I love the father that he is. He's an amazing dad to our children. And I love watching him do that. He's my best friend.
Oh, you guys are so cute. Okay, let me hear Wangeshi and Willie. I mean, you already touched on the fact that Wangeshi, you're the extrovert. Willie is the cool, calm, collected introvert. But 21 years later, has something rubbed off on each other? Like, one has taken up the other person's personality, perhaps?
If I could go, yeah, certainly. I was a bit like what John is saying in terms of being introverted, quiet, having a predictable day, nothing extraordinary, expected. But her life is, bright. She wears bright colors. You can even tell what was behind our wardrobe today. It's definitely her rubbing off on me. So she definitely brought these colors to my life, brightness, spontaneity, laughter. Because if you're introverted, you don't laugh often. You don't really go out of your way to look for, fun. But she used to call it, she used to say what? She has social needs. So we need to go out and look for, people to talk to.
Visit.
The other thing about her is she's very, very compassionate. That has also rubbed off on me because I'm not the kind of person who goes out of my way to look out for other people. But because of her,
yes,
we found ourselves, being empathetic with some people, actually going to visit somebody in the hospital or at home because they're sick. And that is not the first thought that would come to my mind, but because of her, then we go and do it, and then later on, we end up looking good, but it's really because of her. So yeah, there's a lot of things which I've benefited from because of her personality.
Oh wow! Okay, Wangeshi, how about you?
I've learned to be calmer. As I said, when I was in my 20s, I had a very stormy personality.
Yeah.
And he's able to handle a crisis with absolute calmness. And that has rubbed off on me. Or maybe I'm growing older. I don't know which is which. But I'm now able to be a lot calmer and able to look at a situation and analyze. And what I've really appreciated is because he accepts me as I am. I'm able to thrive. I'm able to grow and explore my giftings, my life plans, because he doesn't inhibit me. He doesn't block me at all. So I feel accepted. So I really appreciate that.
Okay, now there's something I picked from both couples, that they speak of how their other partner has actually literally brought the best out of them.
Yes.
Given them the wings to soar, so to speak.
Yeah.
Grace, talk about why it is so important, even as you're choosing that life partner, to consider some of these things.
Yes. Now, one of the issues that we ask a lot, who am I compatible with? And compatibility has a lot to do with your worldview. So you want to get somebody who is similar to how you conceptualize the world. So things like family, what are your beliefs about family? Religion, these are the bigger value things. What makes sense to me. We may not have the same personality. It's not about personality compatibility. It's really about your values. Why? The why question. So what is the why about your life? What is it that you want to accomplish? How do you see yourself? You see what they have said, both of them. They have said that my partner accepts me. And when I was here before, we talked about the 4 needs of every human being. From the time we are children: acceptability, being loved, feeling safe, and feeling in control. And knowing that I can do anything that I dream about. Like we say, all dreams are valid.
Yeah.
And so if you are in a situation where the person allows you to be yourself, to be your authentic you, you're going to enjoy that relationship, not just now, but even in the long haul, because you are constantly working together. I am more interested in you. I am curious about why you do things the way you do them. I am curious about why you act the way you act. And so as I continue with my curiosity throughout, we normally think that because I have dated you for 5 years, I know everything about you. No, I don't. And nobody is static. We are constantly growing. And that is why you marry at 21, and then at 28, your wife starts going out because she's growing. Your husband starts wanting to stay home because usually when you are in those first years of marriage,
Yes.
in the early 20s, the men, they just still want to be out there and doing the thing they like to do with the boys. The women tend to want to stay home and grow their home. So they have the kids, they are growing the home, they are creating the home. Every one of us every woman looks for the time when they can develop their own home. They can create a home, you see. So we do that. Now, when we are not aware of each other's motivations for this really important relationship, we will clash. So compatibility is about world views. How do you see the world? What are your fears and what are your dreams, and how do you achieve them? How do you see yourself achieving them, so that you can share that with your partner? And when you as the partner, you hear it, kindness, empathy, compassion, respect for what your partner, whether you agree with it or not, respect for that. And then equity, that I am saying what is important to you is important to you, and I need to support it, and I need to walk alongside you. And what is important to me, I need you to do the same. What we find is that we want our partners to be like us, and we don't want to be like them. And so we just go through life like this. But when you listen to these couples, what they are saying is that my partner has allowed me over time to just be authentic me. So we are walking together. Differences are not for us to change each other. Differences are for us to grow and to expand. It's opportunity.
Aha, there you have it. Now, as much as we are celebrating the couples that have joined us today, I'm sure it's not been a walk in the park. It has literally been intentional to make it work. So we'll talk to them and understand how intentional they've been on this journey. But before I take that short break, you're still talking to us, even as you answer that question, what is the right age to get married? That hashtag is new normal. Let's see what you have. We have Mwema Ngwate says, you have a good question. Marriage is ordained by Jah. It is a blessing that comes at its appropriate time. The true marriage is not bound by time, but by love. Mwema, we hear you. Another here from Trisha Mwangi says, age is just a number. Is it, Trish? Thank you. Koi Peter says, there is no specific age, but when a man and woman know and understand the right reasons and purpose of getting married. Koi Peter, yes, that makes a lot of sense. Another here from Edna Mokaya, when one is mentally, emotionally, socially, and financially mature. Wow, I love the fact that a couple of people have picked up on the importance of having that balance. Frederick Odwor, when one is financially stable, even if it takes 40 plus years, as long as someone's daughter will not suffer under my watch. It's interesting where men prioritize, this. Ronnie Christian says, I don't think age nowadays matters. It's a matter of willingness and capability. Ronnie, yes, that's what we're trying to define here today. Cassis Robin says, no right age, so long as you're above 18, make your own decisions. Well, this over 18, we've been told, you do not develop properly until you're 25, so we need to rethink. Evans says there is no right age for getting married, provided that one feels he or she is ready. Matters to do with responsibilities. Okay. Karemi Faith says there is no specific age to get married, only your readiness determines. Okay. And another here, being Rosa, says, when you are ready, there is no right age. Well, I guess what we're doing today is defining this readiness. We'll be right back.
you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, we offer free delivery within the same day? Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, you can open an account and lipa pole pole at your convenience? Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, you can get customized sizes according to your roof plan to avoid wastage? Call us now on 0111 050 700. Ruiru Mabati Factory, mali safi kwa bei poa.
Saturday afternoon, so you know we're here to talk sports. I am Carol.
And this is Kenny Gidenji. I am Phantomagorgeously great. So this is a great Roy Karuhize.
Don't laugh. Don't laugh.
No, we have to. I don't postpone laughter. What is happening in Europe?
Wait. You've got me out of these stories are next.
See, there was the denial so early.
But on Monday night, 10 to 10:30 p.m., we'll be live on NTV reviewing the weekend sporting action. Lakini, hey, the two of you have faces for radio. How are we going to do it?
They are talking about Roy. That's Roy's face.
We need to prepare Kenyans.
And this guy's body.
And this is the game plan.
Honorable adjudicators, parents, teachers, and my students at large, in front of you is Mbogi Academy, ready to present a poem entitled Shere. Niko shere naitaki hasira, inataka maponto ameiva. Bill nitalipa, hata kama ni kuririma. Mapinji wa kimok, magovana watawanao. Asante.
To get poem ya Mbogi, dial *811*850#. Skiza Non-Nation.
What will it take to bridge the gaps that we have in access to digital resources in our learning institutions in the country?
We are continuously in the process of providing financial solutions, innovative solutions around the consumer, around enterprises that would be able to facilitate this.
The Ministry of Education to increase and fatten the ICT voted in the free primary education funding.
The Mastercard Foundation is very, very pleased and happy to continue working in solving the challenges and overcoming the barriers that I think we have identified.
Do join us at 4:30 p.m. on NTV Kenya.
Chamge, on to your marks, get set, go! Aya, ona ile mbio nimefiatuga ili niweze kushika simu yako. Ona hiyo mbio nimetoka inde chaberber, no vivo, ni fumbi tubu. Ile mbio nimechomoka ndio nishike simu yako, ni mbio moja dangerous hatari kwenye lango.
To get marathon, dial *811*936#. Skiza Non-Nation.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and this morning we are addressing that question: what is the right age to get married? Well, that hashtag is new normal. A lot of your feedback coming through, but we are also getting a lot of direction and clarity with this conversation with Grace in studio, and of course our couples. And I see Triza Wanyama is already talking to us. When the time is right, rather, God will make it happen, whether you're 18 or 70. Teresa, thank you. Another here from Gidiomi, Simon, who says, time is never a factor when you're getting married. Another here, Ruth Naito, who says, there are several goals to achieve in life before committing to marriage. To me, when you realize that you have not yet achieved your career goals, it's not yet time. Interesting, Ruth. Moses Minor, no, appropriate age to marry? Marry when you're ready, both financially and most importantly psychologically. Hii kuwa juu ya pressure za family na society is the reason we have so many divorce and marital violence cases today. Moses very well said, and that's why we're addressing this topic this morning. And let me start off with the Kanyekis. You said even after getting, to meet in your late 20s, somehow there was a pressure to, get married before you hit 30. Why did you get the pressure?
Because everyone was getting married. So there were just weddings all around. As you get into a season where you have almost 3 weddings on a Saturday, and it's not you. So it creates some sense of pressure. Also, I started working pretty early. I started working from 19 years. So I think once you've tasted your income or your wages, you begin desiring to settle down. So that's a kind of pressure. There's societal pressure, and then the aunties keep asking you, "Ati pilau tutakula lini?" And those questions are not good. Just let the young people just go at a slower pace. So there is a societal pressure, there's peer pressure, there's internal pressure where you're feeling, hey, I don't want to get to 30. And then there are your life goals, where you have decided maybe by 30 I'd like to be settled, I want to have children, and then you start worrying about your biological clock. You don't want to get children at 40. So all those things. And then there's also I didn't quite have this particular one, but my friends had a lot of maternal instinct. So they'd walk through Biashara Street and they're seeing baby clothes. And you just have all this pressure, like, oh my goodness, I want to settle down. So yeah, that happens to women in that age. So, yeah.
Now let's hear the guy's perspective. For you, what was the pressure point, Willie?
I think the same issue of having every other guy getting married. So at that particular point in time, I had 2 very good friends of mine. So one got married like 2 years before us. The other one got married a year before us. So there was like this pressure, like, so you guys, so you're next. So let's do this. And these were guys who used to hang around with, have sleepovers and everything. So they had left me alone. So now I was the only bachelor around. So there was that, well, quote unquote pressure, but in a way it was there. And then, as she was saying, every other weekend there was somebody getting married.
And you're in so many committees.
And we are approaching 30, and I'm like, when are you ever going to get children? Will you get them when you're like 50 or what? So someone was saying, "Usipate watoto wa pension."
Okay, but at this point, even though everything else seems to be moving faster than you are there some plans that you're also thinking, oh my God, this needs to happen before 30, especially for a guy?
Yeah, I think for me as a guy, I was very focused in terms of what I wanted to accomplish. But that's actually one of the things about getting married, is that both of you are bringing different dreams in one cauldron. So she had dreams of escalating her education. We had other dreams of rising up in the corporate world. And I think that's where my real focus was. And I was in a job at that time where I was traveling around a lot. And one of the worries we had at the time we got married was how we were going to make this work. Because I was in and out of the country. Like I'd only spend like a week in the country. Then I'm out for 5 weeks. Then I come back. But somehow, at the time I got married, I got a promotion at my place of work. And I got a desk job. So that's helped us settle things a bit more. But there was that priority for me to grow in the corporate world.
Okay, I hear you because I've seen a lot of feedback, especially from the gentlemen. Financial stability is so key for them. Wangeshi, what was key for you?
Key for me was a relationship that was stable. Also, finances were, I looked into that when selecting a life partner. Like, is he able to take care of himself? First of all, how is he self-managing? Is he able to pay his own bill? Is he able to sort out his household without me coming to cook and wash his laundry? I mean, I didn't want to do that. So I was checking for self-management. Is he able to do his laundry? Is he able to pay his bills? Is he able to keep his house clean? And does he have a vision? What are his values or are important? The psychologist talked about that. And is he going to respect me and treat me well? That was very important for me. Is he gonna value me? Is he gonna treat me well? Is he somebody I can settle with?
Okay.
So those are my lists. We had lists when we were young people, like, hey, these are my top 10 requirements.
All right. I love the fact that we had a checklist starting off. Let me hear from the younger couple, Karimi and John. Did you have a checklist? Or perhaps will John be hearing this for the first time, Karimi?
Well, I'll let him go first because he had a formal written down list.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay, fine. John, what was your list?
Before, right? Before getting married, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think mine was, first of all, I was looking for a companion because I needed company. I know that I like to be by myself a lot, but at some point you want to have someone next to you. So that was top on my list. I think another thing for me was just to be able to provide some form of security for her. So it was important for me to figure out my career and that path, how it should look. So that was very key for me. And of course, something else also for me, I was also keen to be able to look at how can I support her in her career as well. Because I knew that I was not marrying someone who would just be subservient to anything I'm doing, but they have their own goals and ambitions. And I was very keen to be able to provide that kind of support to her. So it was part of my list, yeah.
Okay, and how about the woman you wanted to settle down with? What were the bare minimum?
Bare minimum? One was friendship. I was looking for a friend. Two, I'm looking for someone who would give me support. Why? Because there's so many things I want to do in life that I feel having a partner for a solid kind of support was important to me. And then I was looking for someone also who would give me companionship, support, and just generally help me to do life, you know?
Okay.
So that was very important to me. And someone who's just cool and funny, and Karimi is that and more.
All right, so Karimi, you might not have had it written down, but I'm sure there's some things that were bare minimums.
Absolutely. So I had two lists. One that is deep, of course, where values and things are concerned, and then a shallow one, which I'll kind of just touch on both real quick. So the deep one was obviously that we share the same values. Someone who respects themselves, because then they'll be able to respect me. I was very interested in a relationship that was friendship based, mostly. Someone who would be able to banter, like have fun, because if you're able to have fun in the light moments, it's very easy for you to have, to manage the difficult moments. And then the shallow list is, I was like, listen, I don't want someone who's going to call me Mama Nani at some point in our lives. Mama Watoto, like, keep the pet names. If you're calling me babe when we're dating, keep that energy throughout. So that's my, it was very important to me. And then I think the other thing that I think Wangeshi mentioned also, that I share the same sentiments, is, I didn't want somebody who wasn't able to do chores in the house and things like that. I didn't want to be a glorified domestic manager, to be honest. So I wanted a partner who was going to be able to see me as equal, that we bring the same things to the table, and on the same level, you know, being able to discuss issues on the same level, as opposed to, you know, just taking sort of a subsidiary role, so to speak. So yeah, and I found all of that in Maswanga, and I'm really grateful.
Okay, interesting perspective here. Now, Grace, we're living at a time where some people says, as long as they are alive, I will marry them. That's how desperate the situation has gotten within the confines of relationships and marriages. But what I'm hearing from these couples is that they had bare minimums, and that set up the right stage for them in marriage. Talk about this.
Right. And if you listen to the couples, you do see that there was self-leadership. First of all, I know who I am. This is who I am. These are the things that are fundamental to me. I want somebody who is going to respect me to do these things. So it's almost like there is a definition of who I am and what I am looking for. But at the same time, there is also what I hear them saying, I'm willing to grow. I'm willing for somebody to influence me. What happens when we get into relationships without really understanding how a relationship works?
Yes.
We go in demanding, meet my needs. And now when you think about it, when we think about our moms and our dads, or the older generation, you realize that for them, marriage was very clear. There were very clear boundaries about marriage. So the clear boundaries were, you get married and you have children. And then you have you create this family, and then you have the community that surrounds you. So it's very clear what was expected. Now today we are coming in, and it is not about having children. You know the Maslow hierarchy of human needs.
Yeah.
So during the older generation, it was about the first tier, survival. Marriage was for survival, procreation, and continuing generations. Today, marriage is not about that. Marriage is mainly about emotional needs. So we are in the second tier and the third tier. That's where we come in. Even when you listen to the couples, I want somebody who is going to allow me to just express myself. Look at traditional roles. Traditional roles. So there are those of us who are getting married, but we are not getting married realizing that fundamentally we are traditional. And so we come and clash. So there is this woman who is saying, listen to both of them. I want somebody who is going to participate in the chores. Labor, division of labor. We fight about that in marriage. My father, I remember recently talking to a couple, and the woman is saying, I expected him to come home and we do chores together. The guy is saying that he never saw his father go to the kitchen. But the lady grew up in a family where dad used to do that. So expectations are very important in how we are getting into marriage. So in other words, we are answering the question, to age, add. It's not just about age.
Yes.
It's about how ready you are to, and how much understanding you have about the real issues that people fight about in marriage. Plus, emotional maturity. Emotional maturity means that you are able to hear and to be able to consider the opinion of another person. That you don't look at this relationship as just about me, even in the time when you are having fights. And it's about, because when we have a fight, we go to self-preservation. And so this is about me, how I'm feeling, what you are making me feel, and all that. But there is one word that every person who is preparing to get married or who is in a marriage right now, think repair. Repair, repair. There is no perfect marriage. You will always have pain. You will always have unresolved issues in your marriage. But after the fight, what you do after the fight, that is what matters. Because in the fight, you're going to eat each other heads off. You're going to cut each other down. You're going to do the no-nos of a relationship. But If you know how to repair, you are good to go.
I hear intention needed in fights. Oh, wow. Let me hear from the couples. Karimi, I mean, you guys are passionate. You are very, with it, young. And as much as you were being told how hard marriage would be, you somehow have found out how to work it out. But it's not been a walk in the park. How have you figured out how to be intentional about things? Like the fights we are hearing, Grace, describe how to go about them. Let me start with Karimi.
Yeah, we do fight, definitely. It's normal. We've learned to treat it as such, because when you feel like fighting is something that's abnormal, then you're not really able to go through it the way it's meant to be. So for us, I think the biggest intention has been, like Daktari has said, to repair. Like you fight. Let me just give you our dynamic. So when we fight, I want to deal with it now. Can we fix it now? Can we talk about it now? Whether we are heated, whether we are still angry, can we talk about it now so that we finish? My goal is to move on as quickly as possible. John's goal is to be like, I need to take time away, go and think about things, and then come back. And I'm like, that kind of is wasting time, because you go, you think, and then you come back, and then I present a new way of looking at things, a new perspective. Then now he has to go back. Oh man. So so I think we've kind of over the years have had to find a balance where I'm like, okay, can you give a timeline to how long you need out? Yeah, like, is it an hour, is it 2 hours, like, so that I'm not left frustrated feeling like he doesn't want to solve the issue now. And I'm also giving him room to be able to go and think about things. And in my head, I know he said 2 hours, so 2 hours it is, So I think over time we've learned how to give each other, the space that we both need to deal with how we both deal with issues. Obviously not the same way, but then understanding how I deal and how he deals, and then we kind of find a balance.
Okay, John, so let's get a bit more real here. Before you figured out all that, it was not easy. So yeah. What were the biggest struggles, especially for you as a guy?
For me, one was being asked to provide direction, and I'm still overanalyzing the issue in my head. I want to be by myself, so it was a big challenge. So being told you need to give direction on this matter, I felt under pressure, because I'm like, I want to think through it. And for me now, that's my forte, so I can take 3 days to think about an issue. So it was a big tussle for us. Yeah, but I've come to appreciate that we are different, so I've also learned to, not go for a whole week and say I'm thinking about the issue, but to also consider the fact that for her she wants closure, and for us to move forward with the issue. So that's been my approach. And also I'd say, I think Karemi is more, she wants to get it done quickly. She wants to deal with the issue now, here and now. And for me, I want to consider different angles. Could it have been me? Could it have been her? Could it have been the weather? Could it have been the government?
Okay.
Limited resources.
Yeah.
All right. That calls for a lot of self-awareness. Kanyeki is 21 years. I mean, you must have found a secret to crisis. So, Wangeshi, who are you in the crisis, and how have you learned to maneuver?
Okay, there are different types of conflict handling, and one of the manuals called Ndoa shows that you're either a fighter or a runner. And so a fighter will attack the issue immediately. And then there's the one who turtles or either buries their head in the sand or assumes there's no problem. Who is the runner? So you need to identify what kind of conflict style you are, because if you're, I'm the what do you call it? The fighter. The fighter. I mean, the issue there, I will just tackle it head on. And if we use that style consistently, we could easily kill each other. However, if we are both runners, we might never solve an issue. So, you know, we need a meeting of mind, and then we do need to find a common ground so that we address the issue at a specific time, as the other couple has said. So learning your conflict style is very crucial.
Okay.
The second thing that works for us is to know that there are seasons in marriage. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think what Wangeshi is alluding to is the fact that doing a marriage preparation course or a marriage course basically helps in helping us understand one another. So one of the courses we did, and which we are now facilitating, is called NOAA. That's where she's talking about, you know, for example, one of the things we do is learning how to handle conflict. And so learning your conflict styles was one of the things we learned. So she's a fighter and I'm a runner. So we had to understand, so how do we meet the middle ground? The other thing we learned was that we also need to have rules of engagement. And I think Karemi mentioned some of those. So for example, if the issue is too heated, you're too emotional, you're not able to discuss right now, so you call a timeout. Say, okay, this thing we can't discuss now, let's give it a day or two. The other thing is to have other rules like no slamming of doors, no tantrums, no four-letter words, that kind of thing. When we agreed to that,
and no kneel by mouth,
and then kneel by mouth was one of my major weapons. But so once we establish all those, when something difficulty comes and we have some serious issues to discuss, at least we know how to go about it. And so when we sit, we'll not kill each other, as she put it. We'll be able to have a good conversation.
Okay.
And basically come to a conclusion. But just like Wesonga said, that issue of procrastinating and pushing issues, that's my forte as well. While hers is bulldoze and get this thing over and done with right now.
Yes.
That always created a bit of conflict for us. But I think over the years we have learned how to just mix all those things and have a sane conversation.
Okay, now I asked this question because conflict handling goes a long way in how that marriage works out or doesn't work out. And we're about to take a short break, but before we do, Grace, I think it's important for you to clarify. The good book says, do not go to bed angry. So here the women want to make sure we do not go to bed angry. The man is saying time out. I don't want to talk about it. How do you compromise?
Now, when we talk about relational intelligence, there is something we call self-regulation. So being angry, that's your emotion. It's yours. Take care of it. So when we say that I'm not going to go to bed angry, there is the obvious, don't sleep over it, deal with it right now. But it's 10 o'clock in the night. There is no way your capacity to be able to deal with a mentally engaging conversation as a conflict. You're not going to be able to do that. You will escalate. Your ability after 9 o'clock to be right on it and be objective is very low. So what I want people to think about is don't hold on to resentment and bitterness over a long period of time. Deal with it. So if you are angry that evening, go into your own space and take care of your emotion. You see. So calm down, get yourself to a space where you say to yourself, I need to find a way to go to bed without this anger being so intense, so that tomorrow morning I will actually be able to be more objective when I think about what happened. It might not be that big of a deal, but when you go just like that and you are in fight mode like that, and it's 10 o'clock in the night, both of you are just going to not be okay. And we know that sometimes it can go overboard. Okay. And so take care of own your emotions, self-regulation. I know these are emotions, this is how I'm feeling right now. I'm very self-aware, but I need to go somewhere, because the good book also says when you are angry, Go into your room, lie down, and meditate on it.
Bite your tongue. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, we take a short break here on Your World. And clearly, when you think about age, it is pointing a lot to what Grace said. Maturity, where you are at to handle marriage and all it comes with it. So again, that question that was posed earlier, why is it that our parents and their parents somehow got married at such a young age, but they found the secret to longevity? And speaking of which, your feedback still coming through on that hashtag New Normal. Evangelist Ndegwa says, age is not a competition. I'll marry when I want. No pressure. Ukweli Evangelist, anytime you're ready, it's up to you. Anne Wairimo. Establish yourself first. There is some respect that comes with that. True, true. Thank you, Anne. Another here, we have Kijana who says, I'm 32, not married. The society thinks I'm old enough. I feel I need more time before I get married. Take your time. Okay, that's impressive. Florence Nzao says there is no relationship between age and marriage. Really? From what I've had today? Collins Mutengo says the age when you decide to get married is the right age. Don't procrastinate. Okay, there's actually a converse to this conversation and we'll touch on it. June Kim says when you want, this life has no formula. A day at a time. I am Asi June. Thank you. Another here from Juan Blair who says biologically between 18 to 25, financially 35 to 40. Alafu maisha hainanga template. What works for you might not work for me. So this is just a suggestion. And that is very true. Chepkurui says for ladies 24, the brain is matured to make decisions. Angala umelenga. That's what we've been told. 24, 25 for the ladies. For the guys, perhaps 27. But being beyond 25 is actually the ideal. We'll be right back.
Enjoy the best family entertainment on StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet.
Oh yes.
Subscribe to Classic Bouquet for only $899 for 30 days or Smart Bouquet for only $999 for 30 days. Come on eBay. Ni StarTimes.
Wonderful, your baby's quite active. After I discovered Molfix, I rediscovered my baby. She's jumping and running around. Well, we call that the Molfix Comfort.
Thanks to its elastic side bands, Molfix provides freedom of movement for your baby.
All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
Robisearch Limited Point of Sale Software or ERP will help you monitor and control your stock, services, cash flow, sales, invoices, expenses, profit, suppliers and customers remotely with no stress. Robisearch Limited offers the best point of sale system that can manage your stock, sales, various reports, invoices, accounting, accommodation, payroll, production, serial number and Lipa na M-Pesa real-time module. Grab the offer now.
Fresh fried ginger has ginger oil, which is good for a healthy living lifestyle. It combines wonderfully on salads, stir fries, when basted on roasted meat, or simply sprinkled on your favorite dish. Now available in 250 ml, 500 ml, and 1 liter.
The hustlers are also in the BBI. Everybody's in the BBI.
You're also in the BBI.
No. When the courts stop reggae, now NASA is got confused. Our president has left the government.
Jubilee has been in bed with ODM for the last 3 years. It's just been formalized. The party is practically dead.
When you come back to things like BBI, we're effectively telling young people there is no future for them here in Kenya.
Chamge, on to your marks, get set, go! Aya, ona ile mbio nimefyatuka ili niweze kushika simu yako. Ona hiyo mbio nimetoka inde chaberber, no vivo, ni fumbi tubu. Ile mbio nimechomoka ndio nishike simu yako, ni mbio moja dangerous hatari kwenye lango.
To get marathon, dial star 811 star 936 hash. Skiza na Nation.
It is your world. My name is Gladys Gachanja, having quite an interesting conversation, even as we answer that question, when or what age is the right one to actually get married? And a lot of your feedback still coming through. We'll sample that in a moment. That hashtag is new normal, as we also continue to hear from Grace, the psychologist, and of course the other couples giving us their own experiences. But before we get to it, let's take a look at the other world. Now, Israel launches antibody testing for children aged as young as 3, seeking information on the number of unvaccinated youths who have developed protection against coronavirus ahead of a new school year. Now, despite surging daily infections caused by the highly transmissible Delta variant, Israel's government insists it wants to avoid the hardships and developmental setbacks caused by school closures. Guy Hanoi, who checked his children for COVID-19 antibodies, says, "I came with my children to undergo an antibody test to see if they ever contracted COVID-19 without our knowledge. If they were ever sick with COVID-19, then we would receive a green pass and an exemption from quarantine." Now, Zohar checked her children for COVID-19 antibodies, and she says, "My son received a positive result for the COVID-19 antibodies. Apparently, he contracted it and we did not even know. That means he will get a green pass and be able to go to school safely." Now, hundreds of people, including many Afghanis, demonstrated in Paris on Sunday to demand the immediate evacuation of threatened families in Afghanistan after the Taliban takeover. Now, the protesters waved signs and banners reading "Afghan Lives Matter," "Evacuation Now," and "Afghans Welcome. We are here for our families. Now, they are not safe over there. If they stay, they will die." Now, Reza Jafari, head of the Association Children of Afghanistan and Elsewhere, and an organizer of Sunday's event, told the protesters a humanitarian catastrophe is unfolding. We must prevent it now. Open humanitarian corridors so that people who want to leave can leave. Now, the French army has airlifted about 600 mainly Afghanis on 5 flights out of Kabul in the week since the collapse of the Afghan government. A 6th flight was expected late Sunday. Elsewhere, fires continue to spread in eastern Bolivia, leaving large areas of dry forest covered in ash and smoke. Now, several protected natural areas are also affected. According to officials, fires swept through a forest in Chiquitania, a transition zone between the Amazon and the Gran Chaco lowlands in eastern Bolivia, where large blazes have already ravaged at least 200,000 hectares. Residents of the capital, Tehran, feel happy that bazaars are open once again after nationwide curbs to contain the virus were lifted, but say that shutting down businesses did not affect its spread. Now, Iran has registered 36,419 new infections, raising the total since the pandemic started to 4,677,114. Now, Shamsi Sadat, a Tehran resident, says, I'm very happy that people return to work as they are facing financial troubles. Today, I received my COVID-19 vaccine and came here to shop because I was so mentally exhausted and I could no longer stay at home. Back in studio and to that conversation of the day, when and what is the right age to get married? Grace Kariuki, psychologist, still with us. Karimi and John Wesonga in the other studio. And of course, Wangeshi and Willie Kanyeki also joining us from the comfort of their home. And I must say a lot of reality has been brought forth in this conversation and a lot also coming through in the feedback we are getting. And there's somebody who says here that my parents have been married 49 years and there must have been something very different about that generation, because when I think about marriage, I don't even think myself I'd be married for that long, which now begs the question, what is it about that generation that actually kind of made them understand how to, you know, stay longer in marriage, so to speak? And let me hear from the Kanyekis. 21 years is a long time. What is this that you saw that is so critical that you said you've got to hang on to for you to see the success in your marriage? We can start with Wangeshi. We can, all right, yeah, we couldn't hear you.
Okay, sorry.
There we go.
Yeah, so we were having that conversation and thinking about our parents. Her mother got married at the age of 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, age of 22.
Yeah.
I think my own mother got married at the age of 25. I think that's how old she was. So we have precedent in terms of the generations before us got married pretty young. But when you were conversing that question, we realized one thing is a lot of our older folks held on to the marriages because in the old days, people frowned upon the issue of divorce. So you hang on to your marriage, whether it was working or not, because of what society would perceive or what society expected of you. But on the other hand, you also had our older generation who really loved each other for whatever reason. So they then stuck to each other. In our own case, over the years, we have realized several things as we have basically enjoyed our marriage. And one of the things we've realized is that there are seasons in marriage, and they can be categorized into three. So the first one is called the dream stage, where everything that the other person does, she cannot do any wrong, and I cannot do any wrong because it's our dream stage. Then from there, we move to the next stage called the drama stage, where you have serious conflict. Then once you have overcome that, you move to another stage called the discovery stage, which is then where you have accepted each other's flaws, and you start supporting each other and basically living with each other. And all those stages have years, and you have to overcome each and every one of them. And if you leave this relationship and go to another one, you still have to go through the same process and start all over again with the next new person. So once you reach the place of discovery, you really love each other. You basically overcome all the obstacles and are able to hold each other up. The problem is, I think a lot of marriages never allow, you don't allow yourselves to get to that stage where you can then now discover each other's potential.
Okay, Wangeshi, I'm curious to know, when you looked at the marriage of your parents, are there things that you admired?
Yeah, there are things I admire, but maybe the biggest attribute they have is resilience. Resilience is what is lacking in this generation that is found in the previous generation. Now, because they also came, they had an rural-urban migration. They came from the farm, so they were hardworking, so they had the ability to be responsible. but then they had resilience. And we must coach couples to be resilient. That is something that is lacking. So you don't quit so quickly. If you are in drama stage, hold on. It's a season. The way you have summer, winter, autumn, it's a season. It is going to come to an end. A lot of us are giving up in the drama stage. You just quit. Whereas there is a summer coming. You've got to wait through into the summer. You've got to give it a chance. Because as the psychologist said, second marriages do not necessarily promise you success. So you will go through the seasons in marriage, and you must sail through the drama stage into discovery. Just hold on a little bit longer, unless of course it's life-threatening. I'm not saying you stay in a situation where your life is under threat. We are talking about just, is it finances? Identify the threat in your marriage. It could be a health issue. It could be career, maybe you're overworking. It could be a finance issue. And then minimize that threat. And what we have also found, and what I intentionally do, is that on our anniversary, I do a checklist with my hubby, because he will not give me negative feedback of what's not working. So I ask him, what are your 5 top needs this year? Because things change. And how am I scoring? Now you need to be courageous on this one. How am I scoring on these needs?
Yes.
And actually listening, because your spouse is speaking. Are you listening? It can be non-verbal, it can be verbal. If she's sulking, why is she sulking? Just find out. So just the way we do appraisals in the workplace, have a time of appraisal in your marriage. What are your top 5 needs? Which ones are being met? Which one am I not performing? And then you work on it in that year, so that you're also a work in progress.
Very well said. Now, before we hear from Grace, we have the younger ones amongst us, and there's somebody, Salome says, Aki, I think they survived just because there was no social media. Now, the dynamics of how things were when you were dating and when you're married today, for sure, the Wesongas and the Kanyekis are totally different. So for the Wesongas, what do you think are those things that your folks did not have that are playing part in what you have today?
I think we are a lot more exposed to a lot more cultures now without having to go anywhere. Yeah, we are able to see how people are running their social circles outside of Kenya without having to go anywhere. And I think that has really played a big role into how we relate, I guess, and what we value and what we are working towards, right? So this whole issue of friendship, for example, in marriage is something that I wouldn't really say I've seen a lot of in the older generation, because it ended up becoming about duties, and you just found yourself in this situation where it's just socially accepted. It's, the society, gives a thumbs up to it. And so because, divorce is largely frowned upon, you're like, let me just stick it out. So for me, the way I look at it is more quality over quantity, if I can put it that way. Where I'm like, yeah, you've been married for 50 years, for 63 years, for however long. But what is the quality of your relationship? Is it by default that you ended up together and now you're just like, okay, now I found myself with this person in the house. We might as well, try and make it work, And so it just largely depends on what each couple individually finds the most important to them. For me and for my marriage, what we find important is friendship. And so if 10 years from now, the friendship is still, then I'll consider that we are successful, But if in 10 years, we're just literally roommates, then I'm like, you know what? So I think it just goes to show what's important for each couple. And I think the older generation had things that were important to them. And now things have changed, I guess.
Okay, now John, 7 years married. I'm sure there are many other couples you started off with that haven't made it this far. Can you think about a couple?
Yes,
Oh,
couples.
all right. And when you think about them, what was the number one reason for going their separate ways?
I think there was some people felt, one party in the relationship felt the family was intruding on their marriage. Where it's, decisions have to be passed through maybe the dad or the mom, if you want to buy a house, if you want to change careers. So they never felt like it was exclusive. For others, they felt they wanted to, they didn't feel like they could be exclusive for long. So they wanted to explore, and even as far as, explore someone of, a similar sexual orientation. So there are those dynamics. For others, it was just, I don't feel like you're meeting my core needs, and I don't think you understand my needs. So those have been some of the concerns I've had from people, from close people who've been divorced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Clearly, the dynamics of dating and marriage have changed with time. So to that pertinent question, which I think was being answered by both couples in their own different perspectives, their parents somehow found a way to get that secret to longevity. What worked for them?
I think what worked for them is because there was a lot of conformity to societal expectations. And so if it was expected that you get married, and because marriage was for procreation, continuing the communities, and also creating some sort of partnership, some sort of legacy. So there was no the discussions that now the young couples have, which is about, are we going to have children? How many? Sex today is about meeting my needs. It's a service, kind of economy. So women were, in the older days, it didn't matter whether you enjoyed it, you had orgasm or not. You gave it to your husband because that is what is expected. And you got married and you didn't discuss children. They are just going to come. And if the children didn't come because the woman was barren or because they couldn't have children, then there was a second wife, and there was, so we are looking at now those social constructs, they don't work anymore. We are no longer there. We even know some of our religious, because religion is another way that there was a lot of boundaries about what marriage is and how it should progress. So when you think about the Catholic Church, traditionally, birth control is not allowed because sex is not for pleasure. Sex is for procreation. So now we are living in another space. So a lot of people today, they are getting married with the idea of romance, because in the times of our parents and the former generation, when you think about it, and I'm not saying everyone, but really, generally, it wasn't about romance. It was about, this is what you do. This is how the societies live, and this is everywhere in the world. And that is why, even today, if you are 30, not married and not showing any signs of marrying, people are worried about, we just want you to be happy. Happiness then and happiness now are two very different things. Marital satisfaction now and marital satisfaction then are very different. Love today is very different than what it was. Love for a woman then is what we call, you give me a home, you provide for me. We laugh that the Kikuyu man, I'm a Kikuyu, so we laugh that the Kikuyu man is asked by his wife, and you haven't told me you love me in years. And then she said that the children, do they have food? Are they going to school? Do we have a roof over our head? Is there food? Then what are you asking me? Because again, that's why the men who are talking, they're talking about finances. Because historically, and even the way a man is created, he is to provide. That's it. Women, and I was listening to the older couple, and the lady said, she said her the thing that she was looking for was relationship, stability. He said he was looking to be able to go up the ladder, have financial stability and stuff like that. Why? Because a woman, she needs protection. In which way? Financially, physically, and even emotionally. You see, now, right now, in our generation, when you think about those three things, a lot of women are saying, me, I don't need a man to provide for myself. I need emotional connection. That's why I said the basic need for the relationships that are right here with us is emotional. It is not the basic needs of survival. And that is where really we need to understand. What are you looking for in a man? The man comes thinking, I'm going to protect my wife, I'm going to provide, I'm going to be the hero. And he comes and he finds there is an empowered woman here who doesn't need a hero. She needs a partner, you see. So there are a lot, that's why I said in the beginning, there are a lot of dissonances in our mind as far as what our expectations of marriage is.
All right. Now, before we wrap up this conversation, more of your feedback on that hashtag is new normal. If you can actually have the same on. Keep Quiet Toronto says, when you are able to provide for the family is what would be the best time to actually get married. All right. Zephaniah says, the age that you can afford to buy all the basic needs. Okay. See, guys are very particular. Benedict says, the right age is when you get the right partner. Okay. That's a good one. Another one, Eliphas. Yeah. When ready, hata kama ni 50. It is true. It is true. Kiprotit says, age is just a number. However, normally, a feeling to get married comes when the right time comes. Time to mean that God has prepared you for. Interesting perspective. Eddie says, as long as you're ready to start a family, all I mean is to be able to, be stable so as to avoid nisaidia kitungu in the neighborhood. Age doesn't count, just past 28. That's a red flag alert, okay? Duchessa Leah says, easier said than done. I think one should first understand themselves, have a defining purpose, then now move to dating. You can start finding yourself through diverse datings. It's emotionally draining. Wow, interesting. Another here, Cornelia says, when life is somehow manageable, in short, kama unaweza jibeba mwenyewe. All right. Do we have more? All right, that was the last one for now, but that conversation continues on our socials. But even as we bring this conversation to a close, I'll start off with the Wesongers. What would you like to encourage others that are eyeing this institution or are already in it and are thinking, man, this is not what I thought it would be? Let me start with Karimi.
Well, I think marriage is beautiful. Not the institution, but the person that you find. Whether they're compatible with you, your lifestyles and all that. When you're dating, it's important to have very meaningful conversations around what is important to you as a person, what is important to your partner. Understanding those things before getting into marriage is very important, I find. So that, you discuss everything, the deep, the shallow, everything. So that you kind of get a sense of how life would look like with this person.
Okay, how about you, John?
For me, I'd say you really have to spend a lot of time to be self-aware, to know yourself, and also to learn how to love and appreciate yourself, because that is what you bring to the relationship. And also that is what will help you to understand the other person based on your preferences and how you do things and why you do them the way you do them. I think that's important. So I'd say that's very key. And also just to add on to what Karimi has said, I think it's important to have conversations while you're dating. Like for us, we did a lot of scenario planning kind of conversations.
Yeah.
If this happens, how would you handle it? How would you feel if I got a job in another country? What would you do if we had to live with one of our relatives? So we had those hard conversations, which really helped us to really understand this is where this person is at. This is what they really believe, and so understanding those fundamentals really helps, so that you're able to know who are you dating that you might potentially want to marry, and what are their values.
Okay, how about the Kanyekis? You bring 21 years of experience, starting off with Wangeshi. Oh my, we seem to have lost them just the last minute. But hey, let's sort that out and perhaps come back to it. But before we close this conversation, Grace, somebody is saying, and I think this is very, very pertinent, the converse can also be true when you wait too long.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, yes, depending on what the issue is. You see, life is so dynamic.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of things. Personally, I got married at 39. I have two beautiful young men that we are raising. My husband was in his mid-40s. So it really, again, depends on your maturity. I want to say that marriage is emotional. And marriage needs finances. That's why we are fighting, that's why we break up, because we don't have the skills to deal with the stressors that come with those two things, emotions and finances. So emotions in what way? That I need you to understand me and I need you to take care of me in a way that I feel safe with you. That's why we are connecting, because I'm looking for a safe space where I can be myself. So we have issues of communication. Everybody says we are not understanding each other. We're not getting each other. So the skills that you want to develop, whether you are 21 or you are 71, the skills you need to develop are, and let me summarize them in two: conflict management and communication. How do you communicate your needs and how do you deal with when your needs are not being met? Let's agree, we are in a needs economy when it comes to marriage. It's service. I come to you, you give me the right service. If you don't give me the right service, I feel like I have an alternative to go over there. And I want us to really think in terms of we are created for connections. So if, and like the couple said, if you leave this one, you will still have to go through the same process with that other one. This one is about this. And then over there, you will find it's a new issue. So what you want to do is to have what the Kanyakis said, resilience. Learn how to understand there is no perfection. There is no marriage that is going to be without conflict. So learn how to solve conflicts and learn how to communicate your needs. And this is why it's important for people before they get into marriage to seek for premarital counseling that is both just the two of you and a lot of understanding of what, ask your parents, what made it work for you guys? And learn from that, because most of the times our parents don't open up to us for us to hear. How they have done it. We just know they've been together for 42 years.
Yeah.
But we don't know how they made it. And there is a lady who told me, in our 40 years of marriage, we have gone through every stage of marriage that is out there. Every season of that marriage, we have experienced it and we have come out much more stronger. Because why? We stayed. Now, the generation we have today is because we have too many options and no boundaries. And so now we feel like if I don't like, that's why I call it the economy of service. If you don't, what have you done for me lately? If you, then I will find somebody else who's going to do that for me. That is where now we have to say, are you ready for this lifelong experience, or are you monogamous in every relationship you're in? But you are here for 2 years and then you move for 2 years and another 3 years. Look down the line at your life and ask yourself, do you have a cycle of relationships? So that you take some time to get into that introspective space and be honest with what are you really looking for?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that is very well said. A lot of wisdom coming out of this conversation, even as we tried to answer that question of what is the right age to get married. Grace Kariuki, psychologist, family therapist, Karimi and John Wesonga, married 7 years, and Wangeshi and Willie Kanyeki, married 21 years. Unfortunately, we lost them towards the end, but I think they brought a lot of wisdom into this conversation. Thank you all for being part of this and being candid about your own journey. And I think a lot more other couples have been encouraged by just listening to real people walking real life with real issues, And tomorrow we shall be back with a different conversation. And this time round, we shall be looking at the impact of COVID-19. Now, as you know, it seems to have a changing face, because when the pandemic hit, the most vulnerable groups were those over 58 years of age and with underlying conditions. Today, Reports world over point to younger people and even children contracting severe form of the disease. So from 7 a.m. we appraise the impact of the virus and what the future holds in light of the new variants. See you then.
Presenting the new Harpic Bathroom Cleaner. Compared to ordinary detergents, its thick formulation gives you superior cleaning and kills 99.9% of germs and viruses all around the bathroom. Blue for the toilet and red for the bathroom.
So how do you safisha your ears? I'm Dr. Austin Oyuer, and this is Learn in a Minute. So how do you clean your ears? Unasafishanga aje masikio? Wewe ni wale wasewa kakijiti unaingiza huko ndani, ama kakiberiti, ama kifuniko ya bairo unaingiza huko ndani, unasikia kale ka feeling kapoa. Manze, si poa. Machiki masikio ni kitu sensitive sana. Ukifanya hivyo unajiumiza. So what do you need to do? Chukua face towel, wekelea hapa kwa kidole, panguza tu nje, just clean outside, and that's it. Na masikio zako zitakuwa safi, imagine. Sawa? I'm Dr. Austin Oyuer, and this is Learn in a Minute.
A lot of noise, particularly on social media, of people that don't really understand the markets, are very, very new to the markets, and they're promising very, very high returns in a small amount of time. People love to trade gold at the minute in Kenya, and it's because it's very ranged at the minute. People are making very good money trading it as well. It's quite an established range and has been for the last few months.
What would you say to the Kenyan who is seated somewhere thinking, I want the safe harbor of fixed income securities and maybe my savings account?
Believe it or not, once you've established yourself as a trader, you love the volatility, right? Because you embraced it, you want the volatility.
I don't fear you. Wewe si polisi, kulikuwa na polisi. Ushindi wanyama bwana. Ushindi wanyama.
Haizi kuja kukushika direct, anakuja anakuambia wachana hiyo makosa. Ukikataa anakutoa fare, anakupa onda nyumbani.
Hiyo nimeponyoka ya Mungiki mara mbili, sini mbili. Kwa hiyo ma street ya Dandora iko ma street na tuleni mingi sana. Sasa muda alinitegea tu kwa kona na akapiga hapa mbele yangu tu. Kauma kwa ukuta hapa mbele yangu na mimi ndiye huyu nikarudi nyuma.
Ukami hivi utasikia bana ma bullets. Tiacha.
Nikiwa Kisumu nikija huku wezi wanajua niko nyumbani. Nikija leaf wanajua niko nyumbani. Kiraimi inapanda, leaf yangu inakansoliwa na rudi.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated GE. It is therefore suitable for general